Out of all the endings I thought was gonna happen with this show, that was not one of them. I don't even know what I watched. I'm still processing it, guys. So if you watch the show, we have to talk about this. Hello everyone! Today I am talking about a show I've been obsessed with. Completely obsessed with for the past few months. And then I didn't watch it for a while, and then finally I was like, you know what? 2020 is coming to end. I gotta finish this show. So I rewatched it all. Finally watching the last season that came out in the summer. And I have no words right now. Oh my gosh, that show got my heart pumping so much. And that is Cable Girls. It's a Netflix original. It's actually a telenovela set in Spain, so it's all in Spanish, but luckily they have dubs. I mean, I guess I could have read them, but I did watch the dubs. I gotta be honest about that. And guys, this show was like roller coaster. And at one point I thought, okay, this is all gonna go happy. This is all gonna work out. And I was so wrong. Let's get started. So I don't want to focus too much on the first 4 seasons because, you know, they were one of those seasons where I liked them. They were good, but I don't really have too much to say about it until the last season. So the whole show takes place around this telephone company, and it's in the 1920s of Spain in Madrid. And that's basically kind of show how it is. And I gotta admit, the show did a really good job of intertwining the telephone into it. Like, even when they were no longer at the company, it was still in there somehow, and I really really appreciate that. We have our main character, her name is Lydia. They work for the telephone company, and they're called Cable Girls. But I gotta admit, the show that we started with in season 1 was very different than the show it ended with at the end of season 5, 6. I'm not sure what to call it because it's technically called the final part 1 and 2, but at the same time, in Netflix season 5, season 6, I'm just gonna call part 1 and part 2. So if you hear me reference part 1, part 2, I'm talking about the last season. Okay, so much to unpack in this last season. Season 5 starts off where Sophia, who was Angel's daughter, is taken in by Lydia 7 years ago, and now this is 7 years in the present, and she runs off to Spain to go help in the Spanish Civil War, and Lydia goes and gets her. And honestly, if Sophia never did that, I don't think the events that happened in season 5 would have happened. So Lydia goes back to Spain, and she's reunited with all the Cable Girls, and that's kind of where our story begins. And they changed so much. I was so angry when they made Carlos technically a villain. I was still hoping for like a redemption story there. Like, you know, Carlos was never a bad person, and I'm so mad how much the show hated him in a bad light. Like, yes, he made bad decisions, but so did all the other characters. So when Lydia left on the boat with Francisco in the end of season 4, I thought that was gonna be, they will get back together, like her and Carlos will, season 5. And I honestly thought we would come back to Spain and be Carlos with it. He maybe found someone new, he had a family, like something like that, and they would like rekindle the relationship. And that didn't happen. He's serving in the army. He turns out to be a spy. And I'm gonna say what happened a little later on this video, but let's just talk about this whole dynamic here to begin with. I was so shipping her with Carlos throughout the whole show. No joke. And I honestly thought that's how it would end, with them together, because so many times it was like she would be with him and then she would go to Francisco. You know when you read books and you know you have that one love triangle thing and you have that one person side and you know they really don't have a chance, but you know the author likes to keep them there to add tension, but they eventually end up with the one true person you were totally rooting for. I was so hoping for that, and I was so wrong. It's Francisco. I always never thought of him the one Lydia ended up with, and for a while there, that's kind of where the show was going. To me, Francisco was like that I go back to you when my current relationship's not working, and kind of that person you end up friend zoning eventually. And honestly, when I thought she was gonna end up with him, there was nothing supporting the relationship throughout the whole show. There was nothing ever there. He was kind of just there. Like where Carlos and Lydia, they had a lot of character growth. Like they were really strong characters. They had character growth, they had history, they had tension. Like it was perfect. But like Francisco, the only thing we actually knew about him was that like him and Lydia were childhood friends. And so after the event that happened at the end of part 1 of season 5, I was like, well, she can't end up with Francisco. Like that's crazy because there was just nothing there for me rooting for him. So now let's get to the last part of season 5. So we start to see slowly over season 5, like all those main characters, they start to come back. I really liked what they did with Lisa's character because she never was a bad character. Like she never was a villain. She was more of the victim. And then Carmen come back and I'm like, what the heck? Like what is this? So yeah, when they made Carlos the villain, I was so angry. I thought, okay, you know, there's gonna be a redemption thing here. Especially when we go searching for Sophia and they end up getting captured. They're able to break free from when they're about to get executed, and you're thinking, okay, they're out of the woods now. They're gonna be great. Like it's gonna be fine. And they're captured again. I think, okay, there's gonna be a way out of it. It's not gonna end here. I was wrong. Guys, Carlos is killed. okay? I wasn't expecting that. I am not an emotional type person when watching TV shows. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen. But I'm never to the point where I just screamed at my laptop. Like, not because I was angry, but because I was so shocked they actually went there. What? Like, don't get me wrong. I had predictions going into this. I knew somebody was gonna die because I knew she couldn't end up with Francisco and Carlos. And I know they can't just have one person going off living happily by themselves and making a new life for themselves. No, someone's gonna get killed off. And I honestly thought it was gonna be Francisco. And I thought that if Carlos died, it would be more end of the season for a heroic reason, not because he was caught as a traitor. And honestly, I thought that was such an easy way out of his storyline because normally in these types of shows, there's some ultimatum. Like, okay, I could do this, but if you do this for me, then we'll call it even. That's where they were going. And so I wasn't too concerned when they were saying in his office and stuff until it happened. What? I was Team Carlos. I don't know if you caught up on that. Yeah, I was. And I was just so angry. Like, I went through all 5 stages of grief. Like, there was first a denial. Like, I mean, I'm like, no. He's gonna come back. It's gonna be like a twin brother type thing that happened there. No, he is gonna come back and it'll be great and fine. And then, you know, there was anger. And then, you know, the depression. And finally, we've reached acceptance. But there was still that little hope there. I guess I might have been able to accept it better if there was more in it with his character. So, for example, Ava was finally back in Spain. There could have been a storyline there where he at least gets to talk to his daughter once again because Lydia just made the promise that she would allow him to see her. And I thought he would at least, like, reconnect with her. And it was like, no, that's not gonna happen. Even though that was a huge storyline for the longest time. We're just gonna go away with that and we're gonna go in a different direction. And I was not ready for that. I was like, no, no, what? I felt like there could have been more with his character and I felt like they just killed off his character just to move a plot along for a shock effect because it almost felt like they were going in one way but they thought, no, we're gonna go this way. Like I said, by the end of the series, we had a totally different show. In season 1, like, it was like drama. It was telenovela-like type drama, but it was still fun to watch because yes, the stakes were high, but it wasn't, oh my god, I'm gonna cry from it. But then by season 5, it's just so much more gloomier and I honestly thought, okay, a happy ending's gonna come out of this. It has to come out of this. And I was so wrong. I mean, even though I finished the show, I think I'm still in denial about how everything went down. They just started killing off all the characters. Like when Julio died, I was like, why Julio? Like, why? I was not okay with that. I gotta admit, they actually did a really good job setting up all the characters in these life or death situations where it was like the situation literally would be life or death. Like there's not gonna be a loophole. But I was really hoping it would like life would win at the end. When Pablo went missing, I was like, no, he is not gonna be dead. There's no reason to kill off his character. I was right. But then Julio died and I was just like, why? Why can't we just let people live? Why? But just, I felt like the ending of season 5 was just so premature. I mean, I get it. It was only 5 episodes and maybe they would have resolved more if it was 8. But like, Carlos and Lydia had that on again, off again relationship. I fell in love with Carlos ever since that scene in season 1 where they're running up the stairs together. And so that little reconciliation they had in the jail cell to me just doesn't count. There should have been an actual one. And there wasn't. And they ended up going separate ways. And then Lydia, even after the events happened with Carlos, Lydia didn't even act too upset. Like, she was upset, but it didn't actually drive the plot forward at all. And she wasn't really, like, terribly upset about it. It's like, I get it, maybe because I've seen him in 7 years, so maybe that, like, dulled the emotions. But wouldn't you be somewhat more upset? One interesting aspect I think the show could have done that would have been really interesting is, so like I said, we see the characters now 7 years in the future. But 7 years since season 4, and a lot has changed. And I think it would be really interesting is because all the characters are so different. Maybe doing, like, little flashbacks. Not, like, huge where it's the main storyline, but maybe a flashback or two for each character of how they got to the point and why they are the people they are today. We did find a little bit more of, like, Carlos went into the military a little later on in part 2, but I would have loved to see more of, like, a flashback there. And then we could better understand the choices they made. And like I said, with the ending of season 5 of part 1 with Carlos' death, there just wasn't any, like, he was a main character. This wasn't, like, a character we brought on 3rd or 4th season. Like, he was a main character, and that's what kind of irritated me, that some of the newer characters that just got brought on in season 5 had more storyline and better arcs than the original characters, and they kind of just ended his character, and there was, like, nothing that contributed to it, the story. There was a little kind of in season 5 when it went into why Carmen went and did something she did, but other than that, I think they could have still had the same outcome for his character, but had much more impactful and meaningful. And I honestly thought that would be more of a end of season 5 part 2, but we'll go more into that. So after Carlos died, I honestly thought they were going to focus more on Francisco's character, but even that didn't happen. Like, he was always kind of just there in the whole series. If he was so important to Lydia. Why did I never feel that as a viewer, as a watcher? I never really just found the relationship to be that authentic. It's just more of a, it's just there. I thought part 2 would go more into that, and then it just didn't. So I was writing this as I was watching the entire last season. So at this point in my notes, I said,
I feel like Lydia will die, but honestly, I think that would go against the whole point of the show.
just you wait. One thing I felt like was kind of recycled, the whole saving from the camp idea. Like, first we have the outbreak of Oscar from that one place, and then we had the whole breaking him out of the prison in season 4. And I just like, maybe those were supposed to set up for the final big camp break that was supposed to happen. That was like, all this was like training and set up for this point. But honestly, I kind of just felt like this was just recycling plot points. And honestly, by season 4, I actually started to lose interest in the show because I couldn't really get into the storyline of season 4. I felt like some of the characters just weren't really acting like themselves. I was kind of upset about that. And so honestly, I think it would have been okay after watching this season. They would have just ended it at the end of season 4, because here's the thing. I loved season 5 going into it. It has this telenovela-ish, sorry, that's not even a word, and goes into more full-blown drama, and it was really good. But it just started to get very different show than what I signed up for. Like I said, ultimately I blame Carmen as the ultimate villain here, because she's a reason why the whole storyline of this entire show went on. The reason why the characters had to go do things they did, except she didn't really have much to do with the season 4. Like, she was there in season 4 and she had a subplot going on, but the main portion that was going on in season 4 she actually didn't really have anything to do with, but like for the first, second, third season. And so then when her character kind of has this redemption, like, part of me's like rooting for it because I love redemption stories, but on the other hand I'm like, but yet we have Carlos die one way, Julio dies another way, all good characters, but she gets the redemption. And I mean, her story was sad. I mean, I was kind of upset about it, but when Elisa died, I kind of realized that if this wasn't the show's way of getting back at Carmen for all the times she made the character suffer, her children were like the main driving force to all that she did. So now that they were gone, she suffered. And like I said, I did feel bad for her. I think that was the show's way of getting revenge on her. Like, she made all the characters suffer so many ways. She made Lydia lose her daughter a few times. So many ways they made her suffer, and all this stuff happened to her. And I think that was a show's way of getting revenge on her. So in a way, she did get a revenge type thing. It just wasn't how I thought it was gonna be. So when I finished the second to last episode of season 5 of part 2, I was thinking,
you know, it's gonna be happy now. You know, we got all the deaths out of the way. It's gonna end happy. They're gonna escape. She's gonna be with Francisco. You know, I don't really ship it. She'll still end up with Francisco, and they'll live this happily life together.
boy was I wrong. But wait, there's more. After I finished it, I closed my laptop and I was like, what the heck did I just watch? So they just broke out all the prisoners from the camp. They're running to the train station. I'm thinking, this is where it's gonna end. It's gonna end right here. And I thought, wow, how metaphorical. It's gonna end at the train station where the show began, at the train station.
Such metaphors.
And then that scene where Francisco was running for the train and Lydia was like telling him like hurry up, and it's just the parallel from when they first came to Madrid. I was like, oh my gosh. Like I said, I don't ship them, but I love that scene. See, this is where it's gonna have the happy ending. And then he makes the train, they kiss, in the end, the show's over. Everyone's happy, they escape, turn it off. Like, you know that scene in Friends where Phoebe talks about how her mother used to turn off shows in the middle of it because they say that was the ending because her mom didn't want her to know the true sad ending? That was me in the show. Like, the end, done. We ended there. They lived happily ever after, the end. No. Nope. I was taking notes as I wrote this, so I didn't know how it was going to end. And I wrote, you know, there will be a happy ending. There just might be more strife that goes with it. Ken, I was so wrong. And oh, there's just more than a little strife. It's not just like a hiccup in a row. No. Like I said, as I was watching this, and it was in the final scene, like 10 minutes left, I'm like,
Oh my gosh, how are they gonna resolve this?
so here I'm still rooting for the happy ending. How are they gonna end this? I thought, okay, no, they're gonna like be okay. Everything will be happy. No, guys, the Cable Girls all died. As I was watching this, I wasn't even processing what was happening, and I'm still thinking,
No, they're gonna get out of this.
and then the last scene happened. The screen goes black. And it goes, the Cable Girls gave their lives. I cannot process words right now. I don't even know words. What? It cuts to a scene of them going to exile of Francisco and stuff. And I was like, part of me wanted to a little bit know though what happened to characters after the show, like Francisco, Pablo, and all them. I kind of want to know, but I think if they did have that, then it would kind of take away from the effect of the ending. Because the effect of the ending, I'll admit, I did not like the ending from a viewer perspective who loved the characters, who fell in love with the story. I did not like that ending because, like I said, I was hoping for a happy ending, but I loved what they were going for. I think just having the black screen, it kind of just had this wonderful dialogue talk about how the feminism and the equal rights, it wasn't random because the whole show throughout the whole entire series had that element of the feminism, equal rights. And so I did think it was very powerful, and I think just with the black screen, instead of just having like Lydia narrate it, I thought by just having you read it was just like super powerful and impactful, and I actually did like it. So in one way I did like the ending, but as someone who loved the story, I did not like it. So when it ended and they all died, in my brain, what happened is once Lydia died, she's reunited with Carlos in the afterlife, and they are together for all eternity because they are each other's one true love. That's the ending I'm going with. I don't know about anybody else who's watched the show, but that's the ending I'm going with. Because like I said, we had the show start in 1928 Spain. It's season 1, and it's such fun, especially at the end where she goes and steals from the safe and Francisco's there, and I'm like, and then we get to the last season, and it's like we do a 360, and it's like, remember these characters that we've spent a lot of time together and have loved. Yeah, that's gonna be no more. Get where the show was going. I appreciated it on someone who likes to have things have deeper meaning, but as a person who has vested time in these characters, I mean, the ending doesn't completely surprise me because the whole show was about them risking their lives, so really it's not that surprising. I just was surprised they went there. And let's just talk about the scene where, before the final scene happens, where they're running towards the train, and the train had just started up. I'm sorry, I keep screaming at my laptop, just take off the shoes and run, because they're running in high heels. But also, it's another door incident. There was room on that door. There was enough time to get onto that train. They could have waited till they got close enough to jump on before starting it and then go, because I mean, it's a huge piece of metal. You could go hide in the cart as the thing starts to take off and gain speed. They could have just waited a few seconds to start it. So after that happened, I was like, well, I guess it doesn't matter Carlos died now, because no one ended up with anyone. The show was never really a happy show. Like, there were happy moments, but really was not a happy show. So I feel like having it end happily after we just had this huge drama throughout every season, especially this season in general, this huge drama and high tense reality and setting, that I felt like having a happy ending would just felt rushed and artificial. And this is my thing. Okay, I get the ending. I'm still upset, but I get the ending. But why didn't they just have Francisco die and Carlos then adopt his daughter and be the father he never was able to be? I get it, Francisco was kind of technically her father because he's the one technically that raised her, but still, there could have been redemption in that relationship. My question is, does Lydia's story ever get told? Because we see her starting to write down her story and how she's saying her story needs to be heard. And then we see it in her suitcase, help drug the police people, but did her story ever get told? Because she's narrating through, and that's the one reason why I never thought she actually would die. I thought it was a possibility, but I didn't really think she would. I always thought it was a possibility because she was always risking her life and stuff. I didn't think they would all die. I thought she would at least die. But then I wonder, like, well, she's narrating, so how is she narrating? So is this more of a narration of the present when I thought it was a narration of the past? And that's the thing. All the characters that seem to be really fleshed out died, and then the ones that are kind of like just copy and paste, like just there, live. Like I said, I kind of want to go back and watch season 1 again, especially the first episode, and when everything was so happy, there was still hope, and this was something new and great. Just have it end at season 4. Like I said, I rewatched the whole series. I finished season 4 in May, and then I didn't allow myself to watch season 5 till the last part of season 5 came out, final part 2, but it took a while for me to get to it, and so when I finally got to it, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna rewatch the whole thing. And I gotta admit, the show definitely is not a show I feel like I can rewatch easily. So the whole point of the show is like, oh, what's gonna happen next? But I definitely kind of want to go back, watch the first episode, and be like, it's okay, everything's okay. Like I said, I definitely in a way do appreciate how it was this really nice happy ending with the bow on top, because really I've read books before where it's like, oh, high stakes and stuff, and you think, oh my gosh, something big's gonna happen, then nothing big happens, and it's happily. Like I said, don't get me wrong, I don't like seeing the death of my favorite characters, but don't say something is high stakes and not make it high stakes. It's funny because while I was watching this ending, my friend just happened to text me like, hi, how are you doing? It's like, do you really want to know? Do you really want to know the trauma I just went through while the whole world is going on with their lives like nothing happened? But have you ever finished a TV show, a movie, a book, and the ending or an event that happened in that haunts you, kind of just sticks with you for days, and you're not sad, you're not angry, something just feels off? That was me when Carlos died, and that was me at the end of this. I was sad, obviously, but the next day it kind of just haunted me a little. It stuck with me, especially after we saw the writing of what happened to them them and the bigger meaning behind it, but then we see Pablo and Francisco and walking in exile. I thought they could have gone a little bit more into that, but oh well. And then we see the flashbacks. I was like, oh my goodness. And just like the whole last word at the end, our end was our beginning. They did not hold back on this one. They were just like, we're going for it. Like I said, especially with the last scene, in all honesty, this show stopped being about a drama and more into a big statement with a bigger story behind it. And I'll be honest with you, as much as I've been talking about how much I love Carlos, after seeing how the events of the season last part played out, I don't really think he would have had a big role in it to begin with. So I see why they did what they did now. Whether or not I like it, I see why they did it. Like I said, we have a very different show from when it started to it, and it actually almost seems like a completely different show in general. And also, this has nothing to do with season 5, but it was something I really questioned for a while until I went back and rewatched it, and I kind of just assumed. The character Miguel, okay, he had a huge part in 1 and 2, and then 3 we get like a little shakiness, and then 4 he kind of just drifts off. Like, did he die? I'm just assuming that when the telephone company exploded, he was part of that, even though he was fired. I don't know. There was really no explanation to why his character disappeared. Overall, it was probably my favorite TV show of 2020. I loved this show. I thought the characters were great. Yes, there were parts where it was like over the top, cringe-worthy, cheesy, but I didn't care. The characters were well written. The storyline was very well written. I think especially with the 8 episodes really helped, because sometimes I find in some of these types of shows, when you have a handful of episodes, it's just after a while you're just like, is this series ever gonna end? So I felt like it kept the plot moving, and like I said, the characters were just so well written. I was so rooting for them. Honestly, there were so many times I forgot I was actually watching TV and I felt like I was actually there. I love the modern music too. I think in period pieces, I love the music because it helps get you into that time period. But sometimes I find that when you have the modern music, it kind of helps me connect more to the characters. This show was a roller coaster that I am so happy I joined. I watched it just because I was bored one night and I just wanted to watch something. I just went for it. Definitely did not think when I started the show it was going to end like that, but like again, I love this show. Anyways, that was my review of the last part of Cable Girls with a few inserts of the previous seasons. Thank you for watching. If you watch the show, comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts about it. Thank you for watching. Bye!